Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. Om. So what are the three golden rules that, or which makes you know it is not self? I'll start with the first one. It's changing. That means it's changing. It's start with a P. It's perceived or experienced. And there's one more. It's made of parts, meaning it is dependent. Okay. So whatever is dependent on something else, like prana is dependent upon air, upon food and the mind, therefore it is not the self. The body is dependent upon food, environment, nutrients, and so it is not the self. Okay, so this is the golden rule. Okay, and what is a kosha? Is it really a covering? No, so therefore we add a qualifier, as though covering. And when is it no longer a kosha? So suppose, see, there is an annamaya. Empirically, there is an annamaya, which means a body, a physical body. That's a fact. When has the body been negated? What qualifies for the body being negated? Does it mean destroying the body physically? No, obviously. So what does it mean that it's no longer a kosha? I still have a body, but it's no longer a kosha. You see, I had a body, it was a kosha. I still have a body, but it's no longer a kosha. What is that shift that no longer makes it a kosha?
As the objectivity as it is.
Drop the identification moment you don't identify with it.
You no longer identify with it? Namaha, not mine. Good. One word, namaha. It's almost the entire teaching, just namaha, not mine. In other words, you come to cognitively recognize what it is. This is not self. You just learn about it. Just learning about it and going, so from now on, that's not self. That's called negation. It's simple. Okay. Now, we are ready to move on to verse 50, which is the next kosha. Verse 50, composition of manomaya. Jnanendriyani cha manaha cha manomayaha syat koshaha mama aham iti vastu vikalpa hetuhu sanjnadi bheda kalana kalitaha baliyan tatpurva kosham abhipurya vijrambhate yaha. Okay, so the organs of perception and the mind make up the manomaya kosha. It pervades the pranamaya kosha, and it is very powerful because it projects the seeming duality of I and mine. It can differentiate names and attributes. Okay, so let's study about this manomaya kosha. Again, we're studying something that you possess. So we have to negate it by getting to know about it. And by the way, did you notice that the more we go into, maybe so far you haven't, but now it's going to get subtler. See, the body is very physical, isn't it? So it's very easy to relate to it. No one's got an issue with that. But then the moment, did you notice, the moment we went into pranamaya, already it's much subtler. Now we're talking about heat, heat of the body, energy, feeling fatigued, feeling energized. So already the entire kind of relatability has changed because it's a lot less gross, it's more subtle. So now manomaya is going to get even more subtle, and you'll notice how, more and more it's harder to relate. Okay, so let's see. Now, see, your skin pervades, or is this all over your body? So like that, the manomaya pervades the pranamaya. Just like the pranamaya pervades the physical body, the manomaya pervades the pranamaya. So very simple example. Did you ever be in a moment where you were very embarrassed and you turned red in your face? Yeah, it's not comfortable. So what started that? Where did that start? It was a thought. It was some kind of a thought. Oh, I've been discovered. Oh, I made a mistake. Now, when that thought came, what happened next? That thought pervaded and heat. And that heat is prana. And that prana then affected the physical body. And thus, right, it became red. So we can see how one affects the other. So now it continues. It says this manomaya, it includes the 5 capacities for perception. Okay, so let's look at it like this. See, there are 5 types of matter. They're all matter, but there are 5 types of matter. One type of matter is physical objects like color and form. Another type of matter is sound. Another type of matter is tactile feedback, like sensation. Another type of matter is taste. Another type is smell. So it is all matter, but it's got a very distinct kind of matterness to it. Now, all of those matters, all those types of information, those 5 types of information, they have to enter the mind so that the manomaya can process that. Now, what the mind then does is immediately it says, I doubt this. What do I do with this? That's the first question it poses. What do I do with what I'm hearing? What do I do with what I'm seeing? So we can call that in one word, doubting. So that's the first thing it does. It doubts. You can relate to this, how the mind is not sure, it's skeptical, and then you're making up your manomaya. You're making up your mind. Okay? So it's vacillating. Should I? Should I not? Should I? Should I not? I don't know. Maybe I will. Tomorrow, maybe today. Okay? So it's vacillating. And it not only vacillates, but also it has the capacity of memory. So whenever you have a good memory, right, or able to recall, what you really have is a good manomaya kosha. You have a good, you're accessing or identifying with the memory. So you say, I have a fantastic memory. So what you're really saying is, in that moment, I am identified with the manomaya kosha. Or, my memory is so poor. Again, you're identified with the manomaya kosha. The manomaya kosha is just given to you as an instrument. Conversely, we can say something like, I'm a very skeptical, doubtful person. Again, you're putting your eye in the functionality of the manomaya. So let's not confuse the functionality with the witness of the functionality. That's called discernment. Now, when this data enters the mind, 5 kinds of data. Someone could say something to you. Oh, honey, you look so pretty today. Or, right, etc. Or you see something. What happens is your mind is like, could you pass me the plastic bag? I just want the plastic bag. You know what plasticine or like wet clay is? Of course, you know what wet clay is, but plasticine is, so your mind is like this Play-Doh, and whenever it perceives an external event like this harmonium, what happens is the mind, being very flexible and fluid in nature, it literally takes the form of a harmonium. So if you just give me about 1 hour, I'm going to sculpt this quickly. So now imagine You're looking, this is your mind. So while looking at that harmonium, your mind literally replicates that harmonium and takes this form. And therefore you call this form in your mind harmonium. Why do you call it harmonium? Because it's different than if you look up and you look at a fan. Okay? Now you call that a fan. So your mind is a constantly molding and shaping. The moment it looks over here, it's a wall. It literally shapes itself like a wall. Now if you stand here completely still, that's called one frame. Move, that's another frame. Move, that's another frame. Move, but because it's so quickly, to you it looks like a fluid motion. But actually it's just frame by frame by frame, like on a movie, 24 frames right, per second. So it gives you this illusion that the world is so smooth and it's all just kind of smoothly going along. So the mind takes the shape of external environment. It also takes the shape of its memories. So if I ask you to remember the color of your front door, then again the mind will take the form of a front door like that, okay? And put color onto it. Now what happens too is that the mind not only takes the form of the external and the internal world, that means how you feel, if there's an emotion of gratitude or appreciation, again the mind shapes into maybe a little heart, okay? I guess so that's now the mind of gratitude. It's like a little heart, okay? So now what happens is, because the mind also has its own likes and dislikes and its own fancies and its own value system, when it looks at, for example, a harmonium, okay, again a harmonium, suppose when you were little, a harmonium fell on your foot and you hated harmoniums from then on. So now when you look at a harmonium, instantly, again, the mind replicates the harmonium, but then it accesses the memory and its value system and its likes and dislikes, and it immediately changes it into this, right? And you go, I don't like this, because it has, it has triggered a certain kind of emotion. So not only is it like this, but it's also now associated an emotion of pain onto this harmonium. Therefore, you look. So now, for example. Hilda says it's a harmonium, Andre. But I say, yeah, but I don't like harmonium. See what I'm doing? I'm speaking about a harmonium. Because that harmonium is in my mind and it's shaped like that. For Hilda, it's shaped like a harmonium. So this is how we operate in this world. The mind is constantly shaping itself according to the environment. And having done so, then distortion happens. Then you say, oh, my reality is distorted. Why? Because I'm looking at the mind that has changed this shape. Now what the mind also does is, because the mind, besides memory and doubting, it has one more function, emotion. So whenever there's an emotion, it also shapes. So now there are some people who will speak very from heart. I feel the truth. I feel that I should come here. I feel that, this is the right thing to do. I'm a person of feeling. That is 100% identity with Manomaya Kosha. And what will happen is, then they will say, no, but this is the truth. This is my truth. If I feel this, this is what I'm going to go along with. But what a Vedantan sees is, you have just identified with your Manomaya Kosha. You make decisions based on Manomaya Kosha, because that is where you commit an error. And therefore you go, oh, my heart feels this is the right thing to do. No, I don't want your logic. My heart feels this is the right thing to do. I call it intuition. I call it accessing some divine spirit. And then we start to add this vocabulary to justify this feeling. Again, a mistake has been committed. Now that it's taken this form, you call it by different names. And the form that it takes in Sanskrit is called a vritti. A vritti just means condition of the mind. And when it's a certain vritti, according to the verse, then you give it sanjanadi, you give it different names. Therefore, your mind is constantly distracting you into different forms onto which names are given. So your whole life becomes about forms and names, forms and names, forms and names, duality, 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 duality. Why? Because you are just reading the contents of the shape of your mind, and then there's a witnessing of the contents of the shape of the mind, and then a name is given onto it. And thus the person is caught up in forms and names. Identity with the Manomaya Kosha. There was a story of a man who had carbon monoxide poisoning, and he had a very strange condition in his brain. He could see an object. He could see a cup, a harmonium, or a ceiling, but he couldn't name it. That's very strange. You look at an object, you know, there's a certain kind of a distinction between this and a wall, but I can't name it. What happened there? Well, his brain got, to the point where he couldn't fully receive the Manomaya Kosha. See, remember, the Manomaya Kosha is not the physical brain. Your mind is not the physical brain. So what happens is when there's brain damage, that brain, that part of the brain, like the prefrontal cortex or a part of the brain, can no longer host the Manomaya Kosha. It can no longer host, another name is the subtle body. And therefore, that part of the brain, you can no longer function. So it's not like the subtle body or the Manomaya Kosha is damaged. It's that the physical brain is damaged. So think of it like a physical brain is like a satellite dish. Yeah? And a satellite dish is receiving signals. Now, if the satellite dish gets damaged, it's still receiving signals, but they're static. It cannot fully receive the signals. So this is why when the physical brain damage happens, then certain cognitive abilities start to, they're no longer accessible, but it doesn't mean they're completely gone. The body, the subtle body is still there. It's just that it can no longer enter the mind and function, no longer enter the brain and function fully. Okay? So what are some examples of how we identify with the mind? Would you like to take a guess? How do we identify with this feeling, doubting in various ways? Can you, from your own experience? When have you last identified with the Manomaya, and what was that like for you? I want no mind. That's classic Manomaya Kosha. Big in spirituality. Let's all go into Vipassana, which of course is very useful. I'm not putting down anything, but I'm just saying how it can turn into, I want that beautiful no mind. And so you remain in the state. All you just done is you turned off the Manomaya. Right? So I want the Manomaya to have no activity, but you're still identified with the Manomaya. What about feeling the truth? Go into your heart.
Good luck.
Yeah. See, there's no standardization to feeling something. If a guru comes up to you and say, "Oh, I feel the truth," I know what they mean by that, but suppose they say, how are you going to possibly transfer that and standardize that? How are you going to concretely, accurately pass that on to somebody else? I feel the truth. It's like being a mathematician and saying, "Oh, I feel numbers." You don't want to hear that. What you want to hear is formulas. Give me a formula, 2 + 2 = 4. Give me how do I arrive to that? That's Manomaya Kosha. Then it continues and it says, this Manomaya Kosha forms the I thought. Again, data enters into your mind, okay, through the 5 senses, and then it all goes into the cockpit, the Manomaya Kosha. It has to put together the sights, the sounds, the smells. It has to put it all together into one place. And then it says, mine. Manomaya does that. It says, mine. But then it says, okay, but now that it's mine, what is to be done with this? And so it consults the next kosha we'll talk about, the buddhi, and it says, okay, so according to what I've done before, and the environment, what do I do with this? And your intellect says, well, don't act or do something different. And then that gets passed on to, and then you say, I am now choosing to do this. But this happens so quickly, it totally bypasses us. If you look at your system like a machine, it can kind of be useful sometimes, like a robot. 2 arms, sensors, video cameras, 2 microphones, a CPU, sensors to detect feedback on its outer shell, ability to speaker, voice. Any other ideas? How would you like to embellish this robot? And this robot has electricity flowing through it, prana. And this electricity, of course, powers the whole robot, and it thinks. It looks at the sensors, it looks at 2 things in front, and it goes, okay, so there's a line coming towards me, line equals eat me, therefore, right, it makes an assessment, and it moves up a tree, it runs, it activates its gears, and it starts to run fast. But we take this instrument so kind of intimately and real, and so attached to it, and yet the instrument is basically like a robot, a machine. Now that's just a preliminary metaphor. Don't look at yourself as a robot now. Yeah, that's a good point. So do you feel like thoughts for you are just coming? Thoughts are just coming? Do you choose your emotions, 5 minutes from now? Have you strategized this, written all down, what's going to happen? What's going to go through your mind? No. So for everyone, it's the same phenomena. Just these emotions, these doubts, these memories, they just come at their own time, at their own place. And then we go, oh, why are you bothering me? Because we identify with what the kosha's business is to do. The kosha's business is to bring memories, to bring doubts, to bring emotions. That's its business, that's its function. That's why I say it's like a robot. You can't stop it. You never will stop it. So now when we get into this sort of panic mode, I'm supposed to be like a saint. But even a saint has the same issues. So we imagine someone in a better place, but if they're honest and they tell you how it really is, it's the same thing. Things just come. It only becomes a problem when I take seriously, when I take it so personally that this is coming for me. This is mine. It's happening to me. Oh no, what kind of a person am I now? That's why Manomaya is the center of the I thought, which stamps everything as mine. Emotion, mine. Doubt, mine. Memory, mine. Sensation, mine. That's the problem. So this means you can equally say, it's a phenomena, it's a sensation, but it's not mine. Look at this. Do you worry about somebody else's thoughts coming to their head and bothering them? Yeah? You're like, I don't care, it's your problem. Right?
As long as they don't start complaining about it.
Yeah, then it's your problem too now. Yeah. So look at this. We don't really mind that somebody else that is, not me, they're having thoughts. And yet this person who's also not me, I get so caught up around his or her thoughts. So what is discernment? It's recognizing that just like this other person is not me, equally, once in a while, because I know it's not easy to do in real life, once in a while we say, okay, this is going on, but it's not mine. It's so powerful to do this. Just, practice. In fact, let's look at, for example, right now, look at your hand, not mine. Other hand, not mine. Now have a picture of your house, your apartment, not mine. Imagine all that money. Yeah. That's just the simplest of all. Yeah, that's a practice. Now, hold on, let's step it up a notch. Take all the money in your bank account. All those numbers, not mine. All that hard sweat and effort and all that time that you spend working like a horse, all of that, not mine. Now look at this, let's go even further. My mom, not mine. My dad, not mine. My child, not mine. My body, not mine. Prana, not mine. Emotions and doubts, not mine.
I do this practice a lot, but not using not mine, but Ishvara's. So
Yes.
it belongs to the right guy.
Yes, it belongs to the right guy. Yes, that's another very good approach, yes. This is like very kind of confronting sometimes, this not mine. But it's like Adi Shankara is very to the point.
Yeah, it's okay. I like to look at it, but I can also see what it does to me.
Yeah. But once you do it, it just changes you, it matures you up. Yeah. Now see, that doesn't now mean, oh, okay, so now give me all your money, right? Because it's not yours.
And I'm still from her little cell.
Yeah. So see, sometimes we get into this pseudo spirituality and we say, oh, not mine, oh, body not mine. But then you say, okay, so if it's not yours, okay, let me just sleep in your bed. You go out of your bed, please, because it's mine. I'll take it. Since it's not yours, it's mine. I'll take it. And you say, no way. So we have to be realistic. You have to know at what level am I just sort of entertaining myself? Haha, not mine. Or you're just taking an inquiry every once in a while to recognize this is a fact. It's not yours. You're endowed with this beautiful body. That's a fact. But at the same time, transactionally, you will say it's mine, which is okay. So it's always this, you have to keep that balance. That's how you go through this journey.
That's why it's so nice what Chan says. If it's Ishwara's bed, he gave it to you, we can sleep in it.
Yeah, and he will take it back. He gave it to me and he will take it back. Yeah.
Never alone.
Yeah.
I like the question from last night about aliveness. What is the difference between aliveness and the self?
Yes.
So the aliveness also belongs to Ishvara.
Super. Okay, here's a big one. I am alive. Aliveness, not mine. You see? So this whole idea, I am alive, that's identity with the pranamaya. Drop that too. Once in a while, aliveness belongs to the kosha. It does not belong to consciousness. Yeah, that's a powerful one. Because we are so identified with this alive. I am alive. I feel alive. I want to be alive. And it's so kind of mixed up with who you really are that it's the most normal word. I am sentient. I'm a sentient being. I'm an alive being. But that too is a product of all of these koshas working together. And based on that, we say those koshas are alive. I am the presence in whose presence these koshas, these alive koshas, these sentient koshas do what they do. But aliveness has nothing to do with me. I am neither alive nor dead.
But it's also the truth, because if you look at it, you did not make your own stuff. You did not make your own body. No, but it happened.
Yeah, it happened. You did not.
That's the truth.
That's the truth. You did not, in a way, see, you did kind of choose your body, through your past actions. Past causes. Okay.
Can you do the same, more or less, Andre, with the vritti, with the capacity to form the vrittis?
Yeah.
Is from Ishvara down.
Yes, the capacity to remember, capacity to doubt, capacity to store information. You see, all we do is we're given these capacities, right, to form a thought, to remember. And we just fill that capacity with information. But you didn't actually design that capacity for remembering. You come with that capacity. That's called coming blank. That capacity is so much to be filled up. And so we just look at things and then we load data, kind of uploading data inside our memory. So therefore, even the ability to remember or to hold information is not mine. It is Ishwara's. And that just makes the person so much more humble, down to earth. No sense of pride anymore. Just makes them normal. So the thing is, you don't lose anything. You gain peace. You just gain, like, you don't have to hold on to it anymore.
Is sentiency the same as aliveness?
Sentiency, aliveness, the synonymous words. Yeah.
Andre.
Yeah.
Vipassana is actually, that's what Vipassana is about, is breaking those vittis.
Yeah. 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 It is.
The point of it is actually to observe, like, notice that a sensation is coming up, which is initially derived from thought, and you would have a sensation, and to kind of just break the attachment to it or the identity to it.
So Vipassana is a kind of an experiential mode.
Yes.
To just observe the manomaya activity, prana activity, body activity, and just kind of create some space.
Yes.
That's what they're doing, creating space. Now, very important, in the spiritual world, we have this idea, which is actually not from spirituality, it comes from cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which is the idea, or DBT, which is to separate, right? You know this whole thing, separate and witness the thoughts, witness the emotions, witness the doubts, witness the prana. Now, my question to you is, what is witnessing that?
Still mind.
That's called the mind, the I thought. Okay? So even this idea of separating and witnessing the body in pain, that one who is witnessing is still the mind, the ahamkara. See, you cannot go, oh, I am witnessing that. See, there's a kind of a subject-object duality there. There's only just witnessing. So what I want to point out is that if you go into this mode of, oh, I'm going to separate, that's useful. That's useful initially. They use this in psychology when a patient is undergoing, trauma or some form of fear. Then they will say, let's just put this in front of you, put it in your palm, and imagine this whole trauma is in front of you, and just imagine looking at it. So they will leave this tool to the patient, and then the patient will go home and say, so I'm witnessing, and it creates some space between the ahamkara and all of these other sensations which are so intimately mixed in with the ahamkara. It's still the ahamkara, but it's one step better than all being meshed up. Yeah? So that ahamkara is here the I thought. It's the manomaya kosha. So they're separating the manomaya kosha, the manomaya kosha's ahamkara from everything else. Yeah.
There's a problem sometimes with saying consciousness is the witness, because implying that the consciousness is a witness means it looks onto the body as if separation.
Yeah, exactly. So this is the error. So they turn consciousness into someone that's sort of looking from some location onto everything else. That's never consciousness. That's always the ahamkara. Yeah. But I'm not saying it's a it's a bad practice. It's very useful initially. Yeah. Okay, verse 51. Why the mind cannot be the self. Manomayaha na api bhavet paratma hi adi antavatvat parinami bhavat dukkha atma katavat vishayatva hetoho drishta hi drishya atmataya na drishtaha. Manomaya kosha can never be the paramatma because it has a beginning and an end, and is subject to changes, has sorrow as its very nature, interesting, and is an object of perception. The subject is never seen to be in the form of an object. In other words, the subject can never be the object. Just like the physical eye can never be that which it sees. Okay. So now, why is this manomaya not I? That's the question. Remember those 3 golden rules? Because it changes, because it's observable, and because it's dependent upon the environment, the object that it witnesses. So these 3 will always apply to any kosha. So here, parinami bhavat, again, mind is changing, everything's reported in the presence of the alupta drik. If you pause for a moment. Hear the bird. Okay, now look at that, the wall. Now the motorcycle sound. Now the hand. Okay, so what does this show you? It shows you that none of those sights or sounds have stuck onto now. You're always ever free to accommodate another sound, another sensation, another sight. What does that show you? It shows you that if nothing ever sticks onto consciousness right now, then nothing from the past has either stuck onto you, neither from the future. You understand this logic, important logic? If none of these things have stuck onto, otherwise you have a constant bird, wah, 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 wah. It doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen right now, then it means that it's never happened from the past. So this means all of those things, oh, that pain and that struggle and that, oh, I'm like this, oh, my life, oh, I am punished, I will go to hell, oh, this is going to happen. All those were doubts and emotions. And if this moment never sticks, then that has neither stuck onto you. So what does this mean? Awareness is that which is aluptadrik, unbroken, uninterrupted, constant witness of all emotions and all doubts and all memories and all sights and all sounds and all feelings and all tastes and all smells. Nothing sticks onto consciousness. So you can have whatever doubt you've ever had about yourself, that I am, a person who's not worthy. That was just another doubt about yourself. That doubt has no bearing on the aluptadrik right now. That was just a passing moment, a frame, one of the millions of frames, no special, no more or less special than a spectacular frame, that I'm the greatest human being on earth, as useless as that thought, because if it's changing, it's always changing. It just passes. And here I am now, in this moment, the aluptadrik, ready to accommodate. And then that is gone, now ready to accommodate the next sight, the next sound. And this is how it always has been and will be in the future. So even when you go home, and then you have all the barrage of demands and the requests from those that we know, as will happen, and you look at those emails and it invokes those sensations and doubts in you, remember that too does not affect you, does not touch you. It has no connection to you whatsoever. And very interesting, it says, it is the nature of sorrow. Why do you think this is? Because we often think the mind, hey, isn't the emotions inside, the happiness inside the manomaya? No. Happiness is always anandamaya. We'll get to that. That's a big discussion. We're talking about manomaya. The nature of manomaya is sorrow.
No, I guess.
Yeah, okay, good. On a good right track. Go on.
It doesn't have a root, it doesn't have a knowing in it.
It
knows it.
Excellent. It doesn't have a stability, a knowing what is the right thing to do. Is it comfortable when there's no direction, when there's no guidance? Is that comfortable? Is it comfortable when the doubt is constantly going, should I not, should I not? Are you like feeling, going on a beach in that mode? Should I not, should I not? I think some people actually do, right? But it's not comfortable, is it? To be in a state of doubt, because doubt also transforms together with emotion of anxiety, worry, concern. And the nature of the mind, because it has to, doubt in order to move you through life. Otherwise, you wouldn't question things and will make the wrong decisions. So it has to doubt, and because it doubts, you're in this constant state of that pressure, anxiety, uncertainty, and nobody likes to remain in that state for too long. That is why when we are in a collective war-ridden environment or a place that is not governed by the right police force, you're always in a state of what's going to happen next? Who's going to jump into my house? At least I did. I lived in South Africa, so that was like that. So you're in that kind of place that you cannot quite find any stability to say, I'm safe. And thus, the nature of the Manomaya is sorrow, contrary to popular belief that it's all just rainbows and sunshine. It's not. So look at this. So this means just to be born and carry this kosha, automatically you get sorrow. Just to be born, guaranteed sorrow, just by the mere kosha.
Andre, is that in conflict then with like the Satchidananda, like the Atma that is, eternally at peace is not the right word.
Yeah.
Is that in conflict with that?
No, it's not at all. No, it's a cover when you identify with sorrow. Because sorrow, now you know, is Manomaya kosha. Any kind of grief, concern, or sorrow, or someone has gone that you missed, remember, that is the Manomaya kosha. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.